afternoon. I'm Dr. Ramona LaRoche, and we're coming to you live here in South Florida at the Old Dillard Museum in Fort Lauderdale. Today we have an amazing program that we want to share with you on behalf of the SFASALH chapter, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the South Florida branch. And we're celebrating Brother Malcolm X's 98th birthday. Now I'm going to introduce you to my partner here, Brother Emmanuel George, and he'll tell you a little bit about what he does here at Old Dillard.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel George. I am the community liaison here at the historic Old Dillard Museum. This building was constructed in 1924, so that means that this building will be turning 100 next year. We have a lot of fascinating things coming here at the historic Old Dillard Museum, especially centered around preserving our local Black history. We are currently working on an all-class reunion Dillard High School oral history project. We do a lot of tours here as well to showcase the community what we have here at the historic Old Dillard Museum. We are so thankful to be hosting Malcolm X's 98th birthday, would be his 98th birthday. And we're so thankful to honor him and all that he has done for people of color as well. So I would love to be able to transfer it off now onto Charlene Farrington, who is the co-president of the SFASALH South Florida chapter. And without further ado, here is Charlene Farrington.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlene Farrington, and I am the executive director of the Spady Cultural Heritage Museum in Delray Beach, Florida, and co-president of the SFASALH South Florida branch. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History, also known as SFASALH, was established September 9th, 1915 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He established Negro History Week in February of 1926, which became Black History Month in the 1970s. And he's considered the father of Black history in the United States. SFASALH continues Dr. Woodson's legacy through its mission to promote, research, preserve, interpret, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture to the global community. SFASALH envisions itself to be the premier Black heritage society with a strong network of national and international branches and partners whose diverse and inclusive membership will continue the Woodson legacy. We are such branch called SFASALH South Florida. We are a collective of institutions, academics, organizations, and other people with similar missions to promote, research, preserve, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture primarily, but not only, to the South Florida area. Your presence here indicates that you have some level of interest in this work, and we encourage you to become a member. Your membership opens the door to a wealth of knowledge and resources in Black history, heritage, and culture, and provides you the opportunity to dive in at your own pace, of course, to the never-ending work of learning and sharing. I thank you for being here today, and I thank you for listening. And now I'd like to invite up Sam Anderson.
No, not it. No, we got the next person is Edward Shepard.
Oh.
Please look at your. Yes, next we're going to invite Brother Edward Shepard, and he's representing the historic Hampton House in Miami. He's going to tell us a little bit about the experience that we had back in the 60s, I believe it was, when Malcolm came to South Florida. And
No problem. Good afternoon. My name is Edwin Shepard. I am the brand manager at the historic Hampton House, which is located in Miami, Florida. It opened as one of the first Green Book motels in that area from the time of 1954 all the way till 1976. It currently operates as a cultural center and museum. A lot of history has passed through the very building. The opportunity of having Malcolm X on February 25th of 1964 after a young Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. defeated Sonny Liston. Malcolm X was with Cassius, along with two other friends, Sam Cooke and Jim Brown. Were all at the Hampton House during a very historical moment in history. The four gentlemen pretty much celebrated Cassius' defeat against Sonny Liston and also shared brotherhood during that same time. They actually made a stage play called One Night in Miami, which was the playwright, Mr. Kent Powers. And in following that, just a few short years later, it will become a feature film, which will become the directorial debut of actress Regina King.
Thank you so much. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up my big brother, Sam Anderson, and he's going to tell you a bit about our speaker today, our featured speaker.
Yes. Hello, everyone, sisters and brothers. I'm going to read this because if I talk about my comrade for over 50 years, I'll be here all day long. So I'm going to be brief. Dr. Abdul Kalimat has been fighting for Black liberation for 6 decades. A pioneer in the struggle for Black studies, he played a key role in the civil rights, Black power, and Pan-African movements. He served as chair of the Chicago chapter of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC, and was the founder of the Organization of Black American Culture, the Institute of Black World, the People's College, the African Liberation Support Committee, the Illinois Council for Black Studies, and the Black Radical Congress. He was deeply involved in the anti-apartheid movement and the Chicago mayoral campaign of Harold Washington in the 1980s. In 1990, he convened in New York City Malcolm X Radical Tradition and Legacy of Struggle Conference, the largest international conference on Malcolm X to date. He's also an author of Malcolm X for Beginners, which is available through either himself or me, because there's a long story about why this book is now just in a PDF level. Kalimat has taught at institutions throughout the United States and in the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, and China. A native of Chicago, he holds a PhD in sociology from the University of Chicago. By the way, he was one of the youngest PhD candidates there. He is the author of many books, including the important study, Introduction to Afro-American Studies. Kalimat has curated several websites related to African-American history, including brothermalcolm.net, brothermalcolm.net. Now, 75 or more, a professor emeritus at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Kalimat has launched his latest digital project, a collection of writing, documents, and images chronicling his academic life and involvement with freedom movements from the 1960s to the present. The site, akalimat.org, reflects Kalimat's longstanding commitment to the production and circulation of knowledge in the service of liberation. He's also doing some other work that he'll probably mention in passing, contemporary work at this point. Brother Abdul.
Woo!
Thank you very much, Sam, Rosemary, Denizulu.
He's not muted.
Yeah, the technician and young brothers. That's the family.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Is it on my consent?
Can you hear me in the room?
I can hear you, but can people hear me?
No, I don't think they can hear you.
We insane. We insane.
They hear you. Okay.
Thanks. Technologists.
So we're good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Look at you.
Well, let me start again by saying thank you to my comrades Sam, Rosemary, and Zulu, and all the other brothers and sisters who have welcomed me in the ASALH South Florida chapter. I'm very pleased to be able to make these remarks on Malcolm X, Brother Malcolm, El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz. Malcolm X was an icon of Black resistance. But what is an icon? A person or thing widely admired, especially for having great influence or significance in a particular sphere. For certain, he was all of this and more. Our resistance has been for freedom, first from slavery, then national oppression and legalized segregation, and now de facto segregation and institutionalized racism, topped off by the rising fascist, murderous attacks by police and racist fanatics. We are still resisting our oppression, fighting for freedom. Our journey faces different challenges, but our struggle, our strategic goal, has always been freedom. But who was Malcolm X? Can he speak to us today? And what has been his legacy? Next slide. Malcolm lived a life that maps the Black experience for all of us. That's our reason he touches so many of us. He was who we are. And we can see his life through his autobiography, in which he presents 4 clear stages of his development. First, his birth name was Malcolm Little, born in the small Midwestern town of Omaha, Nebraska. His father, Earl Little, a minister from Georgia, an activist in the Marcus Garvey movement. His mother from Grenada, an island country in the Caribbean, also an activist in the Garvey movement. He was a high achiever with a strong family, but faced the racist murder of his father, institutionalized racism in school, the mental health crisis of his mother and her institutionalization, his being placed into foster care and separated from his siblings. These experiences, I'm sure you get the point, have been shared by so many of us. He changes into his second period by moving to Boston to live with his half-sister, Ella Collins. After a brief exposure to the Boston Black middle class, he rejects their accommodation and takes to the street and the dynamic contradictions of survival while embracing the genius of cultural creativity. He reversed his life and did everything bad, using and selling dope, creating a small gang, including his partner, Shorty, and some white women, being a badass on the street. Of course, this period earned him on the East Coast the nickname Detroit Red, and this led him into a prison, but this saved him from the other alternative of street life, which is an early death. In his third period, the depth of his degeneracy led to a bounce back while in prison. His incarceration led to reunification with his family and parental legacy. He converted to Islam and lifted himself out of hell with a process of self-emancipation, guided by the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. He became Malcolm X. Out of prison, he joined the Nation of Islam and rose to be their national spokesperson and leading organizer of mosques throughout the country. His advocacy of Black nationalism led the transformation of the civil rights movement into the Black liberation movement. And lastly, while opening himself up to the full diversity of the Black liberation movement and to the varieties of thinking and the fullness of world revolution, Malcolm was welcomed in Mecca as a legitimate Muslim and by the Organization of African Unity as a legitimate representative of the fight for freedom by the African American people. Then he was murdered by a conspiracy, aided and abetted by the US government. This followed the American tradition of assassination. Abraham Lincoln, John Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. Malcolm was a voice that we still hear. We can read his words as printed in many books, such as the title of these cover pages of these books on this slide you see. And we can actually listen to his voice as it has been recorded and is available throughout the internet. When we listen to him, he is a current influence as if he was right here with us today. Many have tried to interpret him, but my advice for you is to take time to listen to Malcolm for yourself and ask, does he make sense? Is his wisdom important? And yeah, I am sure you will come away with a confirmation that he is an icon of Black resistance. Next slide. Perhaps the most important speeches as a group are the speeches he gave in Detroit, 1963, 1964, 1965. In 1963, he made his message to the grassroots speech. In this masterful spoken essay, he makes 4 important points. First, political culture. Malcolm X begins his talk by establishing political culture as the basis for Black identity and makes an argument for Black unity based on a building opposition to racist political violence. Second, historical. Malcolm X grounds his argument in a review of 7 cases of revolutionary change in the world from 1776 to 1959, almost 200 years of global experience to build on. He focuses on political economy. That's when he talks about land. And revolutionary strategy. And that's when he talks about bloodshed. Third point, sociological. Malcolm X argues that the difference between the house slave and the field slave was being repeated in the current situation between the civil rights leaders and the militant masses of people. In other words, class struggle. And the fourth point is philosophical. The logic of his argument is based on what actually happened in history, materialism, as a function of a struggle of opposites, that is, landowners versus the landless, dialectics. He lays out much food for thought, including this call for unity. Let me quote him. What you and I need to do is to learn to forget our differences. When we come together, we don't come together as Baptists or Methodists. You don't catch hell because you're a Baptist, and you don't catch hell because you're a Methodist. You don't catch hell because you're a Methodist or a Baptist. You don't catch hell because you're a Democrat or a Republican. You don't catch hell because you're a Mason or an Elk. And you sure don't catch hell because you're an American, because if you was an American, you wouldn't catch no hell. You catch hell because you're a Black man or woman. You catch hell, all of us catch hell for the same reason. Now then the next year in 1964, in the Ballot or Bullet spoken essay, he focuses on the hypocrisy of democracy, the US electoral system. Further, he points us to a global discourse from civil rights to human rights. He wants to contextualize our struggle. Let me quote him again. When you expand the civil rights struggle to the level of human rights, you can then take the case of the Black man in this country before the nations in the UN. You can take it before the General Assembly. You can take Uncle Sam before a world court. But the only level you can do it on is the level of human rights. Civil rights keeps you under his restrictions, under his jurisdiction. Civil rights keeps you in his pocket. Civil rights means you're asking Uncle Sam to treat you right. Human rights are something you were born with. Human rights are your God-given rights. Human rights are the rights that are recognized by all the nations on earth. And anytime anyone violates your human rights, you can take them to the world court. Okay, then in the next year, he takes on Western in his talk, Fighting on All Fronts. He takes on Western imperialism as a target for global resistance for revolutionary transformation. Malcolm X used this talk to sum up 3 basic points. First, the global situation involves the contradiction between the former colonial powers, US, France, England, etc., versus the African Revolution. Second, African is viewed as a threat because of the external threat of the African Revolution and the internal threat of the African Americans joining the African Revolution against the common enemy. And third, armed struggle is necessary to fight a violent, oppressive system. Next slide, please. Now, the legacy of Malcolm X is clear. His name shines brightly on so many things: special lectures, conferences, throughout the curriculum in higher education, streets named after him, movement forms of organization, and even people carry his name. He was our revolutionary icon, demonstrated in this slide by his meeting with the Cuban revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro. He was a reference in the development of Black studies, as demonstrated by this image of Malcolm X Liberation University, established in North Carolina. He continues as a reference in the Black liberation movement by such organizations as the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. Next slide, please. All of what we have been saying about Malcolm in the past has to be updated relative to the current crisis that we face today. At the national level, and certainly in Florida, we face a fascist tendency. There is an active set of groups in Congress and many state legislatures that are full steam ahead in clamping down on what little democracy we have to reinstitute white supremacist autocracy. Malcolm X advised us, especially young people, to think for themselves, to read everything you can, and then make up your own mind. Now we face book bannings, gag orders on teachers, making it illegal for them to teach about the world as it actually is, forced censorship of curriculum, and a whitewashing of Black history. Now, can you imagine wanting to teach about the bus integration struggle in Montgomery, Alabama, and not mentioning that Rosa Parks was a Black woman? That's the kind of whitewashing of history that's coming out of places like the governor's office in Florida. This is an extreme attack on democracy, an attack on Black identity, and really an attack on reason itself. But I have to thank DeSantis for helping everyone see the actual dangers we face. You know, when the devil steps out of the shadows, that should wake everybody up. And it's time to reinstitute higher levels of struggle. Because during the Obama period, some people were saying that we were beyond racism as the norm. Now we know that there is a raging struggle going on, and the racist offensive is at the highest levels of government, all the way to the White House, in most of the governor's mansions, and certainly in the state legislatures. And of course, the funding source of this reaches to the highest, richest ruling class misleaders of this country. But we have to see the future, not in terms of these obstacles we face, these problems we face. We have to see the future in terms of the struggle that we have waged and won. Next slide. Yes. We faced slavery and we won. We ran to freedom, we bought our freedom, and we rose up and did battle, armed struggle for our freedom. We faced de jure segregation and we won. We fought in the courts, we organized and took to the streets, marched, protested, and changed the laws and many people's minds. Now we face a rising fascism and violent attacks against us today. But when we struggle, we can win. Never forget Malcolm, never forget brother Malcolm X, and all the other freedom fighters of each and every generation. We always have been fighting back. We are always fighting. Forward, brothers and sisters. The future is ours. Forward to freedom. Thank you very much.
This is part true. And you won't find very many people who are Afro-American who will admit it. But if it is true, why? It is true that there is a sluggishness, intellectual sluggishness, academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community, but this exists only because of the result that has come upon us through years and years of slavery and being held down in this society. And this is why I made reference to the book Crisis in Black and White. This particular man gives a very good scientific analysis as to why this lethargy exists in the Negro community. It is something that has been created by the system. The system is designed to make the Negro student lose his interest in education almost before he even gets started in school. And the parents, usually, who are also limited where education is concerned and who have run into so many barriers and obstacles despite the fact they had education, sometimes they ask themselves, what's the use? So as long as the system that we are in exists, and this system, the survival of this system depends upon the continued exploitation of the black man in this country. The survival of it depends upon the continued degrading of the black man in this country and the necessity of using us as the whipping boy and the alibi and the excuse. As long as this system exists, then you will find that our people will have the same attitude toward education. And they have a justified, I should say, they have an attitude that can be explained. But at the same time, the burden rests upon the leaders of the Afro-American community to try and instill within the youth especially the desire to further their education, because without it, you're not going anywhere on this earth today.
How would I describe the work that I do? I hadn't even thought about describing it. I just want to be a helper. And I feel that I owe it to the community to give back. The Hampton House has the significance of bringing people together even before the laws permitted it to happen. There's just so much history here, and the community relates to that history. We found out that the county was going to tear it down because it had become a derelict building. And a group of us had a demonstration in front of the Hampton House to preserve a piece of black history. I want to help the community to respect itself and to celebrate its history and its culture and its legacy, and to be aware of who we are. Those kinds of things motivate me.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough, and it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate. We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you? And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
We are now going to open up a few moments for questions to our speaker.
Oh.
And then after, we'll talk about acknowledgements of all our supporters. And we're going to be out of here by 5:30. So we've got about 30 minutes. So let's see what happens. Questions?
Get some light.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm not sure why we're seeing teams on here. My tech support person, thank you so much. Okay, any questions from the audience? And you'll have to speak up loud, so because we have people online watching as well, okay? And if you would let us know who you are, if you're representing somebody, if you like, that'd be great too. Okay, questions, comments, feedback?
Yeah, the StreamYard just stopped.
You just stop, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm glad to be here in regards to Malcolm X Day, but my biggest challenge right now and my biggest concern is getting the word out to the community from the grassroots level. I realize that a lot of us are consciously woke, but until the grassroots level get the word, our movement might not have the strength that we have, but I feel very strongly we get the strength because I look around here and I see the numbers, but yet still, I don't see the majority of the people that need to be up here. Because until the word go out to the majority of the people and we feel that movement, our struggles gonna continue to be that.
I'm sorry. Any response to that? Any feedback? Let's open this up for discussion and conversation besides this question. Yes.
Oh, thank you. My name is Rosemary Neely. I'm the author of Fidel and Malcolm X, Members of the Meeting, and I'm a member of SFASALH. I think the brother raises a very important question because, you know, what has happened, we have to realize that technology is paramount these days. And with our young people, there is a tendency to rely on that technology for the bulk of communication. And so I think we have to borrow some lessons from our elders. Flyers in the community, you gotta be able to walk the community, and even at this point, there's great fear of even knocking on the door that you're gonna get blown away if you knock on somebody's door. But until we bring back defense in our community, self-defense in our community, protecting our communities ourselves, much as what Malcolm said, and it's not hard to do that. We have to move out of the academy into the streets. That's what I said. And it's great that people are here today, but I think we rely too much on live streaming And which is great, it's fantastic. COVID created a situation where we had to find new means of communicating. But I think, again, it's back to some of the old school methodology, i.e. the flyers, and you leave under the door, in the mailbox, going on the radio programs where our people listen to, and getting some time there. And it's just about organizing, old school organizing. And as an elder, you know, that's what I impart in response to what the brother says. That we have to go back to basic ways of organizing and mobilizing our communities.
I'd like to make a comment about that if I could.
Hey everybody, my name is Sam Woods.
Yes, speak up.
All right, and I definitely want to say that, you know, they both made great points. I for sure agree with the idea that there needs to be more mobilization within our community, especially when we think about the youth. I think that, you know, we have to find more ways to connect with them where they are. And a lot of that, you know, is about bridging the gap and meeting in the middle between the elders and between, you know, our generation and the ones that's close to us, to find a way to connect with them. And there's several, you know, artistically, creatively, socially. So I think that that's, you know, most important. What I did want to ask is, for our moderators, Dr. Ramona, Ms. Charlene Farrington, and Emmanuel, what advice would you all give, you know, us people here and the people that are listening on ways to encourage family, friends, youth to practice, you know, social justice and find ways for them to be able to express that comfortably?
I'd like to comment on this. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I think the first thing for us to do is to not be too pessimistic, but to understand what the rhythm of our struggle is. It's sort of like music. What is the rhythm of our struggle? And I think what we can see is that when a great attack occurs, the community wakes up and responds. So there's a spontaneous movement. Katrina, all of the mass murders, people hit the street. Black Lives Matter was so important. It reverberated in every city in the country and many, many other countries around the world. So we have this spontaneous movement possibility, but we can also see the limitations of that spontaneous movement, although that's what we really base our struggle on. Because when the people wake up, it's sort of like the wind is coming, and do we have the proper sails so that we can take advantage of the wind? And so small groups like the group meeting today are extremely important. Important because this is the group that can really go into deeper study, deeper understanding. In other words, ASALH has a function to try to create a basis for understanding the political culture of South Florida, to understand the ways in which people have fought back in South Florida. In other words, we really should be optimistic about the fact that we have been fighting back and we have to find ways to increase our fighting back, but the small groups are the basis on which we go forward. So we're talking about the movement developing what we call cadre, C-A-D-R-E, cadre. That is to say, people who are serious enough to do serious study and commit themselves to carrying out organizational functions. So when Rosemary says, create leaflets, go out into the neighborhood, etc., we need cadre to implement that. In other words, Carter G. Woodson created community programs of education, that outreach. That's the function of ASALH. And so I'm rather optimistic. Of course, every day, you know, we see so much horror. It's possible to be pessimistic. When I think about, particularly in this recent period, Black Lives Matter, that was a wake-up moment, deep, deep in the community. And I think we need to respect that, but we need to go further and devote ourselves to deeper study, more commitment to engage in the struggle.
Thank you, Brother Abdul. Someone else?
I think Sam has a question for us.
Yeah, do you guys want to comment on that at all? Dr. Ramona, Emmanuel, and Ms. Farrington, just try and maybe, here in Florida, you guys live in the same climate that we do, and, kind of up to date on the current events, as far as this room is concerned, any advice for any people here?
Charlene, I'm going to defer to you first.
Well, I'm going to have to concur what the professor said. And ASALH, this organization is designed to do just that, to engage small groups like this. I'm sorry, you'll go back to where it was?
Yeah.
To engage small groups like this so that we can come together on one accord and have these conversations about everything that's happening to us and around us in our community. And we may not necessarily come out of these sessions with a game plan or a roadmap, but we can know that when we come out of these sessions, we at least have a better understanding of what's happening. We draw on the strengths and the knowledge of each other. And bit by bit, what that does is allow us to start to make changes in our own lives and talk to the people in our own worlds and bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, the next time we have a gathering like this, each one of us who is committed to come should make sure we have someone with us. And so that we can start to grow our numbers and become more unified in our thoughts and our opinions on what is happening to us. And from that, growth and change will occur.
Thank you, Charlene. My response, I'm thinking about the climate of South Florida, or Florida in general. Oh, now I can. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. So my response to that, Sam, is that South Florida, or Florida, and the climate is what's going on. Even in trying to prepare for this event today, we were strapped with time at the African American Research Library. The reason why we came over here is because we're doing the Florida Emancipation and the Haitian celebration, and that starts at 6. So that's why this is an hour program. So I just want everybody to be clear, because I think Brother Sam said this is the shortest Malcolm program I ever been to. But I wanted us to at least get this hour in and start this conversation. But we did have some resistance in trying to find a place, because some of the local organizations wanted to charge us. And we felt, why should we have to pay $200 to honor Brother Malcolm? So that is, the climate. Whereas up north, Dr. Lily said that she got invited to speak at a high school about Malcolm for, the commencement. So, it's just our climate that we're in. But it's really important that we continue to do this intergenerational conversation with our elders and our younger elders and our upcoming youth and our business people, our people that are in media and other organizations. So I would say that I concur with Charlene. It's important that you always bring somebody with you. Because a lot of times we come by ourselves, but we never bring young people. And I believe, I have a word that I've coined. This is my word, so if you hear it, you know it came from me. Adultism. Adultism affects all of us across America and all of our nonprofits and our churches, especially in the South. I was in my 40s and Alec was not able to get a leadership position in South Carolina. In my 40s. So imagine what the 20-year-olds feeling like if the 80 and 70-year-olds don't want to stop playing the organ when you have a young musician that's 25. So this whole idea of adultism is real in our community. It's control. We love to control, but you know what? Release it. Train somebody, pass the baton. It's important that we all do that. Otherwise, we're up against a lot, because the young people have the fortitude and the energy, and we have the experience. So we come together and we share and we love and we find family that we connect with, and it's just, that's my response. Thank you.
All right.
All right, other questions or comments?
I want to say, I'll add to it. I'm sorry, brother, I do have some.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, brother.
I think that a fundamental question that ASALH needs to address is the fact that DeSantis has attacked Carter G. Woodson. And the question is, for all you all sitting there in that audience and everybody else that could hear this video, when are Black people and people of goodwill going to march on DeSantis? The whole country is watching DeSantis. And if a group of people, any number, were to march on DeSantis and counterattack and demand Black history be taught at all levels of education, that would be seen throughout the entire country. This is a moment. This is a moment for the people in South Florida to represent all of us. DeSantis represents all of the white racist, supremacist, militia, fascist elements. You know that. Who's going to represent us going up against that? That's the question I think you all need to start dealing with right now. If I'm trying to help, so I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm trying to help move this to where you could make a national contribution right now.
The brother has a response? Yes, brother.
My understanding in September, SFASALH is coming to Jacksonville.
It is.
And they was wondering why they coming there. They say they want to promote SFASALH in regards to dealing with his ideology, but yet still, I'm like you, brother. I'm in Florida, but yet still, we got to understand boycott, the economic boycott is power. Until we come together collectively and understand we're being attacked, like you said. I'm not sure what they said, if they could rule the fund, they committed to funding. Maybe their attack and strategy is going to be very successful. I'm not sure. I hope it is, because I'm one to rally to oppose a statute. I got a current right now, I'm a letter carrier. A manager have his same ideology. I ain't gonna be nobody package, I ain't gonna be nobody, as they say, product. Because they look at us as we commodity. We have to understand, we come from royalty. We got to go beyond slavery and embrace our royalty and work forward to reestablishing our family and our love for each other. Because right now we kind of broken to an extent, but it ain't beyond repair. So we move together. That's why I came here today. It's all about us coming together.
If the local South Florida chapter of ASALH passes a resolution calling for that conference to hit the street, all those people who come to hit the street and speak directly to the evil of DeSantis. It seems to me that it was one play to stop it, but they're coming. The national conference is going to be in Florida. And the local chapter in South Florida has a pivotal role to play in helping the national organization know that their responsibility is to hit the street. So like that brother said, we can speak to the grassroots of our community. Because if the ASALH hits the street, the national media will cover that. And everybody will know that Black people are resisting and fighting back. And it seems to me that's really an important role for the local chapter of ASALH to play. Give leadership to the national organization. Everybody understands when Black people hit the street. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you, brother. We have another comment.
Good afternoon, I'm David Miller, and what brought me here is a classic line by Malcolm X was, media is a weapon of mass destruction. So we here in the 21st century, it's obvious we got to use it. It's obvious. So as a millennial, everything you guys are saying makes perfect sense. But just like they create campaigns, we have to create campaigns. What was mentioned before was organizing. So I'm all for that as Coach Arts Ambassador in Pompano Beach. And keep talking about legacy because just like the American Indian tribes, they kept that thing word of mouth, and they kept talking about who they are in the time of peace. In our time of peace, we got a whole lot of, oh Lord, I'm just thinking about some lyrics to some songs. Y'all don't need to hear that. I'm talking about, but and all kind of weird stuff just came out. But in the time of peace, you know, because like you said, Brother Abdul, we organize in the time of struggle. So that's the only activation we got is, oh, we are suppressed again, so let's get together. So yeah, keep that positive media in our historical timeline alive, because I have a grandfather born in 1896, died in 1960. So he saw Jim Crow and he possibly saw some slaves. No one ever said that we were slaves in my family. So I'm like, is that my narrative? But we can't say we always had some oppression, even to this millennial day, where we now got the Broward County libraries suppressing education by holding the books back on a lot of the knowledge. Now, I remember reading Mark Twain, you know, the N-word was mentioned, and I remember Killing Mockingbird. If y'all scared of it, then, you know, it might become a collectibles item. But we still, you know, as African American or as any kind of African descent, the time we spend reflecting on what we've accomplished and during our time of peace, I definitely agree with y'all with this whole put together some media and march against DeSantis at this moment. That's global. Just like you said, that's national. That's actually global, especially South Florida. I know a whole lot of New Yorkers, not a whole lot, a lot of times, but New York, Philly, they'd be like, what's wrong with Florida? But they come down here because they respect our car culture, our music, and our fun part. But then they think we're doing something weird on the politics part. And that goes back to Bush. It goes back to all that. But DeSantis did wake me up because I'm like, oh, you can do that as a person of power. You know, it's deeper than, because see, all our politicians are figureheads. But when them guys just get in there, they be saying what they want to say, and they, oh, it's rushed right now. Like, DeSantis passed me, man. This ain't no just, oh, we gonna bank on it. Trump got in office, it was a big old signature. Pop, there it is. And I remember Obama, it was like, we gonna do it. We gonna do it. And then a whole lot of things came out that I didn't really like.
Okay, brother, I'm gonna have to pass the mic to Brother Daniel.
All right, some great responses over here by many. Just speaking on the South Florida local level, I mean, one of the things that we gotta do is that no matter where we're from, whether it's Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach, we all got similar issues, no matter what. Gentrification is happening, cost of living is pushing us out. Gentrification is happening, cost of living is pushing a lot of us out, so we're all going through the same thing. And we understand history, even going back to segregation, when our high schools, you know, were segregated, it was all the same stories. So when we look at what's going on now, you know, we're seeing us coming together. This can be the start for what SFASALH South Florida has going on. We're here, we're leaving with something. We're leaving with exchanging information, and then we come back stronger. I see a couple people here who I know personally, and some people who live in my community. A big thank you to Brother Anderson, Jonathan Anderson, coming by from the Liberia community. So I would just definitely say that no matter what, we're all going through the same thing, and we all got to figure out where we play our part. It's just like building a house. Not everyone's going to have to be building the roof. Not everyone's going to be doing plumbing. We all play a different part towards one greater issue. So that's what I would have to say in regards to that.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We're getting closer to our time, so I want to just make some acknowledgements here. First, we want to thank Professor Abdul Ali Kalimat one more time. Let's give him a round. Then I want to acknowledge, we have some artwork here, and we may try to pan around so the audience online can see some artwork. We have a piece that was done by Sister Alfrina Musa. It's a 4x5 piece of mountain. Isn't that beautiful? Yes. Alfrina is an amazing thing. She does an art therapy brunch quarterly up in Miami Garden. So if you want to know more about that, we can let you know. And also there's a blurb about her and the cost of the painting, if anybody's interested, is up there. We're gonna, at 5:30, we're taking it over to SFASALH, and it's gonna be up for our program tonight for Destination Freedom, and it'll be up tomorrow as well, because we have a program tomorrow as well for Florida Emancipation Day. Also, Asylum National, they were kind enough to send a lot of literature and stuff outside, so please feel free to take whatever outside. And of course, our own grant, we're really thankful that we were able to get together. For those of us that are not here in person, I'm sure they're online with us, and this was also recorded on YouTube, so you can go back to it, you can share with your friends and like us on both Facebook and YouTube. Of course, the African American Research Library, Dr. Tamika Hobbs could not be here, so that's good, because she's dealing with the other spot, but she sends her regards. Also, we had some help with Florida International University. I also want to acknowledge Judge Denise Lane. She brought the painting up from Miramar yesterday in her SUV, so I want to acknowledge her. She couldn't be here because she just got back from Thailand. Then Kala Naima Nuruddin is coming to pick up the artwork and put it in her truck and take it over. She's also an artist, and she has a show opening tomorrow night at the Nikki Lopez's place.
1310 Gallery.
Yes, they open up tomorrow for a month. And of course, the Old Dillon Museum, Emmanuel, thank you so much, as well as the school, the education system here. Hampton House, I want to acknowledge Brother Edwin again. Thank you so much for bringing up the 2 pieces. Again, those are actual photographs that were taken when Malcolm was in Miami during the fight, the Cassius Clay fight. Okay, with Sonny Liston. I also want to acknowledge his director, Jackie Collier. She was the one that organized it. She couldn't be here, but she sent family. And the young man that came with you, tell me your name again?
Thomas Gordon.
Thomas Gordon, thank you so much. State House Museum. I want to get a plug for them, Delray Beach. Thank you so much. Just kind of looking around real quick. Brother Sam and his wife and then the baby, he has Rabbit Hole Vegan Restaurant in Palmdale Beach. There's some other people I don't want to start to call everybody out because you know what you call, what is that called? But I will say that we have slavery in the house, and this brother grows cotton. And he sells cotton products.
Yeah.
And
I was in the picture.
he will also, excuse me, he will also be at the program this evening as well as tomorrow. So you can get to know what he's doing. He's working with homeschool children and all kinds of very interesting stuff with this process.
Yes.
And he's now doing artwork as well with the cotton that he's growing. And there's 3 colors of cotton. You don't know that?
No.
3 colors of cotton. He'll tell you later.
I'll tell you later.
And then I want to acknowledge that brother over there because he always supports us. And we're friends with my cousin James Small, so he always comes to the library. So I'm always happy to see his face in the library. Old Dillon Foundation, we have a representative for Old Dillon Foundation. And if I forgot somebody, please don't hold it against me, because it's a lot. I know this girl from Pompano, because I go to that Pompano Beach. The Historical Society. Right. Yeah, and last but not least, Michael Anderson is our tech support, who's been helping us out from Miami. So I want to acknowledge Michael Anderson as well. He has a program called, Michael, was it 1,000 Heroes? Can you hear me? Michael? Okay, it's all right. So, in the interest of time, I now have 5:29. How about that? So, I'm going to turn the lights back on. We're going to end this down. I'd like you to come up and take a look at the artwork. Make sure you sign in. Take some programs, take some literature, and if you want to talk to anybody else, now's your time to network. I'm going to be leaving shortly as soon as everybody gets here, but you're welcome to stay. Yes.
The table, that's free literature or?
Yes, everything is free. Yes. Now, the event at our library, it's supposed to be 15 in advance, 20 at the door, because you know we're doing drink and food. No children, drink and food, and they got hunger lessons tonight. Haitian food, soul food. So if you want to head over there, but when you get to the door, ask Dr. Hobbs if you can get a discount for being here. I don't know what you're gonna say, but don't tell her I said that.
She'll give it to us.
Okay.
And think about it in the future, once you something in the South, I'm the commander of Post 209.
Okay,
We'd be more than happy to help you.
okay, we'll talk more, because I know you
Because,
cover a lot of
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I know you
Because,
cover a lot of it.
we open our home to the veterans, to the community at large. That's what we're about, American.
Thank you. Okay, so again, thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving this. Let's sing, brother. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. We want to sing it. Happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Birthday.
Happy
Oh,
birthday.
I'm sorry. I'm just ready to look at my house. They left the curb. All right, Malcolm. Happy birthday. Happy born day.
Okay, we're good.
That's the curve on me. I lost it now.
I wasn't back to somebody else.